In this session, we would be discussing the preparation of overhead summary, and for the preparation of the overhead summary, we will try and approach this scenario with a numerical. So the numerical goes like this: the following overhead information has been supplied from the costing records of a company. Prepare the statement showing apportionment of cost to various departments, and then they have given us some overheads over here, and they've also given us some details regarding the organization. Okay, so with this we will have to prepare what is called as the overhead distribution summary. So what is meant by overhead distribution summary? Overhead distribution summary is a statement that is prepared that helps in channelizing your costs. It will show you the breakup of how exactly overhead costs can be distributed. Okay, it talks about how exactly overhead costs can be distributed. So that is what is meant by overhead summary. So overhead summary is the statement that gets prepared. It talks about the distribution of the overheads between the various departments. Okay, it talks about the distribution of the overheads, the overhead costs between the various departments. So over here in this scenario, we have the overheads costs, and then we also have some details regarding the organization. We will have to prepare the overhead distribution summary. Okay, so let me continue with the session. So before we continue with the session, there are maybe one or two concepts that I would like to discuss with you, and then we shall continue with the solving of this. So we have to learn a concept which is called as basis of apportionment. Okay? So the basis of apportionment. Okay, now what do you mean by basis of apportionment? Basis of apportionment refers to the logic with which you would distribute the overhead. Okay, so it talks about the logic with which you would distribute the overhead. Now, please remember, overheads are indirect expenses. Okay, they are indirect costs, and the reason why it is called as indirect costs is because you're not able to charge it against a specific cost unit or a cost center. That's why it's called as. That is the reason why it is called as indirect cost. Okay, that's exactly the reason why it is called as indirect cost. But can you go on not recovering the indirect cost? You cannot do that as well. At some point of time, you have to recover the indirect cost, and this indirect cost you will have to charge it back from the products or from the services that you are rendering. So that logic is what you refer to as apportionment or allotment. Now, when you have to apportion the cost, how do you go about apportioning the cost? You would go, there are certain bases with which you would go about distributing the overhead. Okay, so you would go about distributing the overhead. So we will go back to the previous question, and then we will look at that question and we will talk about a scenario. So let's talk about the scenario of rent. Okay? We are talking about the scenario of rent. Now, you are paying a rent of 2,000. But this rent of rupees 2,000, it is enjoyed not by one department, not by two departments, it is enjoyed by 4 different departments. Okay, so in this question, we are having rent, and the benefit of the rent that you're paying, it is enjoyed by 4 different departments. So here you have department A, department B, department C, department D. So it is enjoyed by all these 4 departments put together. So in such cases, how do you go about charging this rent from these 4 departments? Okay, how do you go about recollecting, or how do you go about taking the money that you're spending for rent from these 4 departments? So one would be, you could ask all the 4 of them to pay equally. Okay? You could ask all the 4 of them to pay equally. But if you asked all the 4 of them to pay equally, that would be a slight problem, because the benefit of the rent that you're paying, it is not evenly distributed among all the 4 departments. Because if you notice, department A, the space that department A is occupying is 3 times the space of department D. I'll repeat that. The space that is taken by department A, it is almost 3 times the space that is taken by department D. So if you're asking them to pay equally, it will not make any sense at all. Okay, it will not make any rational at all in terms of distributing them together. So asking them to split the money equally. So that rationale doesn't seem to be correct. That logic doesn't seem to be correct. So in such cases, how do you go about distributing these expenses? These expenses can be distributed in terms of the floor space that these companies are enjoying. Okay, so you can go about distributing them in terms of the floor space that is occupied by the 4 departments. So A, B, and C, they are occupying a certain portion of your premises, and the rent that they have to pay, you can distribute it in terms of the floor space that is occupied by them. So if you would go about calculating it on the basis of this floor space that is occupied by them, in such cases, it would be a lot reasonable. It would be a lot rational, because you are splitting the money on the basis of the space that is occupied. So that makes more sense. Okay, that makes more sense. So this is what is referred to as the basis of apportionment. Okay, so you decide to split the rent on the basis of floor space. That is called as basis of apportionment. Here's another deal. You're having a maintenance cost. Now the maintenance cost is 1,200, but now this is the collective maintenance cost. Okay, this is the collective maintenance cost. So this collective maintenance cost, this is the cost that you're incurring for maintaining all the 4 departments. But in such cases, how do you go about distributing this maintenance of 1,200? So one way of distributing it, it would be on the basis of the cost of machinery. Okay, on the basis of cost of machinery. So depending on the capital expenditure that you had for your machinery, if you think of dividing the machineries, dividing the cost, that would be more appropriate. So an example that I can pick up on is that of the lighting. Okay, so for example, for lighting you're spending 200 rupees. Okay, now this lighting expense of 200 rupees you're paying across all the 4 departments. Okay, it's for all the 4 departments put together. But for all the 4 departments, how do you go about charging that lighting expense of 200 rupees? So in such cases, what will happen is you will split it on the basis of the area that is occupied by them. Okay, you would split it on the basis of the area that is occupied by them, and that would be the basis of apportionment of your lighting cost. So this distribution on basis of certain logic, on the basis of certain rationale, is called as your apportionment. Okay, so the distribution of the expenses on the basis of the extent to which you are enjoying the benefit, that is called as the basis of apportionment. So on the basis of the apportionment, we would be preparing the distribution summary. Okay, on the basis of this, we would be preparing the distribution summary. So now we will be talking about how to go about with the distribution summary. So we will be preparing a statement to distribute the expenses. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly switch over the camera to the board, and then we will be continuing to solve this question. Okay, so we've got the overhead distribution summary statement prepared, and I'll quickly explain the format to you. The first column is for particulars. Here you would be writing down the name of the overhead. Second column is basis. So based on what logic are you dividing the cost that gets recorded over here? Total overhead, we are talking about the total amount. And then we have 4 columns corresponding to each department. So here we will be talking about the division that gets spread across the total cost. In what proportion will it get divided among the different departments? So I request all of you to quickly prepare the format, and then we should be starting off with this overhead summary. So the overhead distribution summary over here, that the format that we see over here, basically this helps us to split the overhead and then spread it across the different departments that you're having in the organization. Okay, it will help you to understand what is your overhead, and then it will help you to split that overhead across the various departments that you're having in your organization. So for example, let's talk about rent. Okay, so rent, the basis is floor space. Okay, so the basis is floor space. Okay, now your total rent, the overhead total is 2000. Okay, the overhead that you have in total is 2000. So this 2000 you will have to divide across department A, B, and C. Okay, and we know the basis of dividing this is on the basis of your floor space. So now let's calculate how much is the total floor space that you have. Okay, let's calculate how much is the total floor space that you have. So how will you calculate that? You just have to add up all the floor spaces that are occupied by the four departments. So 150 plus 110 plus 90 plus 50. So in total, that works out to be 400 square feet. Okay, so that works out to be 400 square feet. So this 400 square feet is what you will have to split across the four departments. Okay, this is what you will have to split across the four departments. So for department A, the share, how will you calculate? You will calculate by 150 divided by 400 into 2000. Okay, so now let me explain this to you. What is 150? 150 is the square feet that is occupied by department A. Okay, 150 is the square feet that is occupied by department A. What is 400? 400 is your total square feet. Okay, that is your total square feet. Now, what is 2000? 2000 is the total rent that you're paying. Okay, 2000 is the total rent that you're paying. So when you divide this, okay, so this works out to be 750. Okay, this works out to be 750. Okay, now how did I get 750? So remember, so I'll just erase this one more time, and then I will write it in a proper way. Okay, so how did I get 750? 150, which is the space that I'm presently occupying, divided by 400, which is my total space, into 200, 2000, that is the total rent that I'm paying. That I'm paying. So when you do so, you will get the amount as 150. Okay, you will get the amount as 150. Okay, so I've got this, and I've got this. So, what does that mean? Out of 2000 worth of rent that I'm paying, 750 is the portion that is the extent of my of the premises that is enjoyed by the department A. Okay, I'm paying a rent of 2000 rupees. Now, out of the 2000 rupees, department A is enjoying a benefit of 750 rupees. That's what is meant by that. Okay. So similarly, we will have to calculate for the other departments. So department B, it will be 550. How did I get 550? 110 into 5. 110 is the floor space that is occupied by department B. That into 5 will give me this. Here, this will be 450. Okay, this will be 450. How did I get 450? 150 divided by 400 into, 90 divided by 400, 90 divided by 400 into 2000. So that will give me 450. For the last one, this will be 250. Okay, so this will be 250. So notice what has happened over here. We have divided the expenses based on the extent to which they are enjoying the benefit. So this is what is called as apportionment. Okay, this is what is called as apportionment. Instead of just splitting it directly, we are splitting it based on the extent to which they are enjoying the benefit. Okay, so we have done, and if you add up all this together, what you would notice is it would sum up to 2000 square feet. Okay, yeah, so it will sum up to 2000 for 400 square feet. So that's what it means. Next one is maintenance. Okay, next one is maintenance. Here we are talking about the overhead of maintenance. The basis for this would be cost of machinery. Okay, so the basis for this will be cost of machinery. Okay, so cost of machinery that gets that you have incurred, that would be the basis for this. So cost of machinery refers to the initial expenditure that you had to spend for getting this machinery. Okay, the initial money that you had to pay for getting this machinery is what you call as the cost of or what you will refer to as cost of machinery. So if you add up all this together, you would see the total amount, it will work out to be 60,000 rupees. Okay, it will work out to be, the total will work out to be 60,000 rupees. However, for maintenance, you're only spending 1,200. So how do we calculate this? So here, the value of machinery that you have in your department A, this is worth 24,000. 60,000 is the total benefit, and this into 1,200. Okay, this into 1,200. So 24 divided by 60, and this into 1,200, that will be 480. Okay, this will be 480. Okay, this will be 480. So for the next one, okay, so for next one, how do we calculate? Here we will calculate by 18,000 divided by 24,000 into 12,000. So I hope this part is clear to all of you, the basis for us to go about calculating. So I hope that that this is clear to all of you. If you have any doubts, you please do not hesitate to ask. Please stop me. I will be more than happy to clarify. So for department B, this is 360. Okay? For department B, this is 360. For department C, it will be 240. Okay, it will be 240. And then finally for department D, it will be 120. Okay, so what is the logic behind this? The logic behind this is your total maintenance is 1,200. You're splitting that maintenance cost on the basis of the cost of machinery. Okay, so now how do you understand the basis? The basis you will come to know based on practice. So based on practice, you will be able to understand how to go about charging this. Okay, how to go about charging this. So someone has asked me, how did I get 480 here? So how I got 480 was, department A is having machinery worth 24,000. Okay, department A is having machinery worth 24,000. And the total value of the machinery. See, now maintenance, what do you mean by maintenance? Maintenance, the amount of money that you're spending for upkeeping your machinery. Okay, this is the amount of money that you're spending for the upkeep of your machinery. So how do you go about splitting this? On what basis will you split this? So the basis for you to split this would be the cost of the machinery itself. Okay, the value of the machinery itself, because if you have a more expensive machine, you will have to spend more money to maintain it. If you have a less expensive machine, you will have to spend less amount of money to maintain. Now, what is the total cost of the machinery that we have in our organization? So department A, we have 24,000, department B, it is 18, C, it is 12,000, and D, it is 6,000. Add up all this four together, you would get the answer as 60,000. Okay, I think I made a mistake over here when I was writing. So this should have been 60,000. Okay, so if you add up all this together, it will be 60,000. So department A, 24,000 divided by 60,000. Okay, divided by 60,000. Oh, someone is asking me, how did I get 29? It is not 29, it is 24. Okay, so divided by 60,000, this is given to me in the question. 24,000 is the value of machinery that I have in department A, divided by 60,000. Okay, that into 1,200, which is my maintenance cost, and that's how I've got this. Okay, next one is depreciation. Okay, next one is depreciation. Okay, so basis of calculating depreciation, what do you mean by depreciation? Depreciation is the wear and tear. Okay, so depreciation is the wear and tear. So the basis would be cost of machinery. Okay, the basis would be cost of machinery. Okay, so again, the total depreciation amount is 900. Okay, so the total depreciation amount is 900, and okay, so how do we calculate here? So here we will calculate this by 24,000 divided by 60,000 into 900. Okay, into 900. So 24,000 divided by 60,000 into 900. Why 900? Because that is the total depreciation. So this will work out to be 360. Okay, this will work out to be 360. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, here this will be 270. Okay, this will be 270. Okay, this will be 270. Next one. This will be 180. Okay, this will be 180, and finally this will be 90. Okay, so this is the proportion with which you will go about splitting. This is the proportion as to how you would go about splitting your overhead. So someone has asked me, is it 320 or is it 160? If you can clarify a little bit more, which one are you referring to? That would be good. Okay, that would be good. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the next overhead. The next overhead is lighting. Okay, next overhead is lighting. Okay, lighting. On what basis do you think we should apportion this? If someone can raise your hand quickly, I would be happy to hear the answer from you. On what basis do you think we should be apportioning lighting expense? What should be the basis of our apportionment? Any guesses? Can someone try? If you can raise your hand, just give it a try. What should be the basis? Anyone? On what basis should we apportion lighting? Or else, if you would like to try, give it a try, you can send the message in the chat as well. You can. Okay, excellent. So I've got many of you responding. It's there. You've confirmed it should be floor space. Very good. So floor space. Okay, so floor space, and your total lighting, the expense is how much? The total expense is 200. Okay, the total expense is 200. So let us calculate this. Okay, so let us calculate this here. So first case, how do we calculate? 150 divided by 400 into 200. Okay, so this is how you should be calculating for this. So here this will be 75. Okay, this will be 75. Next one. Next one is 55. Okay, next one is 55. This will be 45. And finally, for the last one, this will be 25. Okay, this will be 25. So 75, 55, 45, and 25. So this is how we have gone about apportioning the cost. Okay, this is how we have gone about apportioning the cost. Okay, so I hope this is clear to all of you. If you're having any difficulty understanding, comprehending, please do not hesitate to ask. We'll be more than happy to clarify. Okay, so far I've not got any messages, so I'm under the assumption that all of you are following. Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, let's try the next one. Next one is insurance. Okay, so insurance, what do you mean by insurance? Insurance basically refers to the premium that you're paying. Okay, so the premium that you're paying, and this insurance, for whom are you taking? You're basically taking for your workers, you're taking for your employees in the organization. So any guesses, what would the basis for apportionment of insurance be? Any guesses, any thoughts? You could try. Okay, some of you are responding. Very good. So far the answers that I've got, it is all correct. Okay, good. Good, I'm very happy. So the basis of apportionment would be number of workers. Okay, so here the basis would be number of workers. So the basis would be number of workers. So number of workers, okay, number of workers, it will be, so let's quickly calculate how many workers we have. We have 24 plus 16 plus 12 plus 8, that will be 60. Okay, so here how do we calculate? Here we have 24 workers, divide this by 60 into 1000. Okay, into 1000, this will give you the insurance that you're paying for here. So first one, this is 400. Okay, this one is 400. Next one. Okay, next one, this will be two. So let me just see. Okay, so this will be this will be 266.67. Okay, 266.67. We were getting a decimal point. Let's try the next one. So 12 into 1000 divided by divide this by 60. This will be 200. And finally, the last one. This will be 133.33. Okay, 133.33. So this is how we would be getting the division of insurance. Okay, this is how we would be getting the division of insurance. Okay, so now let's try the next one. The next one is quite interesting. The next one is energy. Okay, the next one is energy. Okay, so energy, basically we are talking about power that you are putting in for your machinery. Okay, so energy, we are talking about the power that we are spending for your machinery. So any guesses what would be the basis for this? Any thoughts on what basis will you divide this energy? Energy. Okay, okay, quite good. Okay, so some of you have responded cost of machinery. That is very correct. So cost of machinery. Now, why is it on the basis of cost of machinery? Because remember, this energy, this power that you're spending, it is for what? It is for powering your machinery again. Okay, so for that, the basis should be, it should be your machinery itself. It should be the cost of machinery itself. Okay, it should be the cost of machinery itself. So that this is what is meant by energy. Okay, this is what is meant by energy cost. Okay, so moving forward, let's just quickly calculate this. 24,000 plus 18,000 plus 12,000 plus 6,000. So the total works out to be 60,000, which we had already calculated. Okay, so here it will be 720. Okay, next one would be 540. Okay, next one, 360. Okay, and then finally 180. Okay, so on the basis of energy, this is how you would go about apportioning it. Okay, this is how you would go about apportioning it. Okay, next one, supervision. Okay, supervision. So any guesses on what would be the basis for supervision? Okay, so on what basis would be supervision? Any thoughts? Supervision. So what do you mean by supervision? Supervision would be the cost that you're spending for supervising your employees. Okay, supervising your employees. So any guesses what would be the basis? Okay, some of you have already got it correct. It is number of workers. Okay, number of workers. Okay, I would be happy if someone can calculate and then give me the answers. Can someone quickly calculate and then give me the answers? Number of workers. Here it will be 1200. Next one, 800 is for here. Here it will be 600. And then finally 400. Okay, so we've done with that, and then we've got one last thing to go, which is employees' contribution to PF. Employers' contribution to PF. Okay, so again, what do you think would be the basis for this? Okay, some of you have already got that also correct. That will be again number of workers. Okay, number of workers. So here this is 300. Okay, this would be 300 and okay, I think you just have to take 1 0 off. 120, 80, 60, 40. Okay, so we've completed that, and that's not over. We will have to total this up. Okay, we will have to total this up. So we have to find the total for each of these departments. So let's just quickly total this up. 2000, 1200, 900, 200, 1000, 1800, 3000, and then 300. It will be 10,400. Okay, it will be 10,400. Here this will be 750, 480, 360, 75, 400, 720, 1200, and then 120. It will be 4,105. 4,105. Next one, 550, 360, 270, 55, 266.67, 540, 800, and then 80. So 2,921.67. Can someone quickly help me with this? In the meanwhile, I'll just calculate the last one. 250 plus 120 plus 90 plus 25 plus 133.33 plus 180 plus 400 plus 1238.33. Okay, and then here the answer is 2135. Okay, so what does this mean? This is your total overhead for the year will work out to be 10,400, and this is the proportion with which you would end up dividing this overhead across department A, B, C, and D. Okay, so this is how you would go about dividing this. Okay, so if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Please ask me quickly. I'll be more than happy to clarify. If you have any doubts, any questions, any queries. Okay, so someone has asked me if I could readjust the camera. Okay, so let me just quickly do that. Okay, so I hope now it is clear.